Hey guys, Professor Matt here with an overview of Chapter 10. Now we move on to something that really has changed the face of public relations in the last 10 to 20 years, and that's multimedia and mobile. Okay, two really important things. Multimedia is not that new in the sense that public relations people have also always been multimedia, right? We've always had to do audio and I mean like broadcast and print and visual and so forth. So that's not really the new part. The mobile part is huge, and I really like Chapter 10 because it kind of talks a lot about the ways that the profession has changed in the last 10 to 20 years and things that we need to know. So the chapter begins with this concept of selective attention. It's huge. I think I mentioned this before, but here's the idea is that all of us are inundated with constantly with messages all day long. And we need to select which things we're going to pay attention to. And you can probably guess which ones we do pay attention to, the ones that actually apply to us. Okay, so it's super important that in this digital age and this time when there's like information overload, is we think about this concept or theory of selective attention and realize it is getting more difficult even to get the attention of the people who need to hear our messages. Okay, so it's super important to know. We need to help manage expectations for our clients and our bosses that it is difficult to get people's attention today. All right, so multimedia. There's a great chart here talking about who are the practitioners who are in high demand, and it's a little Venn diagram, and it talks about those, first of all, that understand a research and strategy, those who know how to build relationships, those practitioners who can write well, and those who get it with social media and multimedia. Okay, so it's in the midst of that, in the middle of that Venn diagram, this is where this is sort of the sweet spot for the profession is. Understanding research and strategy, build relationship, writing well, get it with social media. You guys get it with social media much more than people my age because you were raised on this. But it's important to realize just because you are practitioners or users of social media doesn't mean necessarily you know how to use it strategically. I'm going to talk a bit about that. Okay, so multimedia, obviously, text and visuals and so forth. Here's the thing to remember in terms of again where writing comes into play. We talked about this in the last chapter, but the art of the pitch. We pitch things to people and to media and so forth. The art of the pitch, persuading someone to read something, listen, or watch further is still very much a word-based endeavor. Okay, so despite all of the various new media that we have, words and text is still at the heart of what we do, and that's what we talked about in the last chapter. Being able to write well is super important. Okay, but in addition to that, now we do have the visual part. There's visual communication because the adage is, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If people's attentions have become shorter, which they have, in fact, I saw a study the other day that said that a goldfish actually has a longer attention span than most people. That's really concerning. Anyway, okay, so if words is too much and we have information overload, so then we add visuals because visuals can be quick. And that's led to the rise of the infographic. Taking information that would take a lot of words to explain, creating a visual infographic that actually explains it in far fewer words, right? And it's much more visual. So we need to know how to do that. That's really going to be key for what we do. All right, so then again, word-based, but really to understand that sort of visual communication has become a big, big deal. What about audio? Audio is massive today too. In fact, you might think that radio is done. Radio is huge. Podcasts have become, they were kind of like a big thing for a while and then they kind of died off. And now, once again, podcasts are a big deal. Understanding how to create a podcast that is interesting and compelling. And what it does is we call it's a pull strategy, right? Pull because we're going to create really good content, pull our target audiences in, with compelling content. And we need to be able to create really good stuff because there is a lot of good stuff out there. And we need to be part of the people who are creating, content that's compelling and interesting, and it does entice people to follow you. So audio, don't forget about that. That's going to be a big one as well. Obviously, video is big. If you look on Twitter, whether it's a video or an information graphic or a picture, whatever it is, I can bet you that when you're scrolling through Twitter, that you will stop probably more often on those tweets that actually have a visual attached to it. In fact, I see very little tweets today that don't have a visual component to it. And of course, Instagram is all visual. Okay, so mobile. Mobile has become the biggest thing in public relations in a long, long time. Because you think about it, that most people are accessing news and information and so forth on a phone, right? And they have it with them all the time. So you need to have content that is mobile enabled, right? It's content that's designed to be on a phone, right? It can't just be stuff that you put on a website and go, oh, it's the same stuff for a phone. It actually has to be created for a phone. It needs to be in a format that's appropriate for it. And it needs to be strategic, right? I talked about this before. Just because you have been users of social media doesn't mean you know how to use it strategically. And it's very important we think about that. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do with a tweet or a post or whatever it might be? Okay, and there's strategy that goes behind it. Okay, so what does it need to be in order to be effective in the mobile category? Well, I talked about the format needs to be right, and the content needs to be snackable. You may have heard that term, snackable content, before, and it's the idea of content you can consume in short bites on the run. Okay? Snackable content is huge because most people have, again, because of shortened attention spans, have very little patience for content that is longer. I don't know, this 6, 7, 8 minutes. If you have a video that you're trying to get people to watch, if it's longer than like 5 minutes, you gotta think, I gotta carve out some time for this. So we're always talking about content now, videos that are below 10 minutes, if not less than that. Okay, so content that you can actually consume on the go in bite-sized pieces. And then the chapter ends with this one theory, which is really important. There's a few theories in this textbook, and all of them are really practical theories. This one talks about uses and gratifications. Okay, and it has to do with how people use the media. Okay, and various media, like in terms of why do they select this medium over this medium? If they might use Twitter for information or entertainment, we need to know how do they use a particular medium, for what function? What does it gratify? Is it surveillance? Is it entertainment? Is it what is it? And why do we need to know that? We go back to the idea of planning. We're choosing channels. The channel has to match the situation, and for this particular target audience, what do they do? So if your target audience uses Twitter for just for entertainment, and you have an information message, that you're not gonna have an effect. So what is the particular channel? What's the platform? What do they use it for? And we need to know that, so we're matching the message and the situation to the platform that actually this target audience uses that for. Okay, and the last thing is that the chapter ends with a whole thing about there's another ethics case study. This one has to do with privacy and safeguarding confidences. In PR, we have to make sure that we do safeguard confidences. Talked about before of being objective and being transparent, but that does not mean that we blab stuff, right? If our clients are telling us stuff that's confidential, it is not our job to blab that, right? Because otherwise, if we get into that whole category of like we can't be trusted with information, that's a problem. So safeguarding confidences is a big deal about what we do. Anyway, read chapter 10 and look at the PowerPoint that I've uploaded. Take the chapter quiz, participate in the discussion, and I'll see you next time with another overview for another chapter.